Greetings, this is Bus the PMP, also known as the Practical Moral Philosopher, and I just wanted to discuss a few things today. It's Tuesday, June 19th, so I want to talk a little bit about Juneteenth. I ran into some people today, even in their 40s and 50s, who had never even heard of Juneteenth. So this is not just going to be a trivial piece of history, however. I want to deal with how it is that we're defining freedom. So Juneteenth is one of those conspicuous occasions where freedom is defined differently for black people than it is for other people. So hopefully you can see the slides in this presentation, and we'll run through this very quickly and give us a definition of freedom that we can work with to actually overcome the domination of Europeans and Jews. So that is the goal. Okay, in the Revolutionary War, our children are taught that the British colonists went to war with Britain, who likes to be called Great Britain, of course, a little linguistic trick of their superiority. But at any rate, the colonists went to war with Britain, and what's really important, so I'm not going to read the slides to you, but what's important to note is that they came out of that war with what they called freedom, right? And we see two things bulleted on this slide, which is land and resources, as well as political and economic autonomy. So you have to have at least that in order to consider yourself free, right? They wanted to be free from the domination of Britain and its monarchs, right? And likewise, we want to be free from a regime that is even much more oppressive than Britain was. So if the colonists deserved freedom, then how much more do we, and by we I mean black Americans, or should I say colored Americans, because it includes red, brown, whatever it is that you want to call non-whites in the Americas, indigenous people of the Americas, right? So that was the Revolutionary War. So then our children are taught in World War II, so obviously this is not in chronological order. This is in order that's going to lead up to what it is that we're trying to define, which is freedom. So after World War II, what happened? We got the Declaration of the Establishment of the State of Israel, very similar to the Declaration of Independence for the British colonists. And what did they get as a result of this war? Land and resources, political and economic autonomy, again. So this is how freedom is defined for invading European colonists, and this is also how freedom is defined for Jews. But all of a sudden, of course, let's see what's next here. Okay, that was just a slide talking about the establishment of Israel. But so now, let's see here how freedom is defined with respect to Juneteenth, okay, and the Civil War, because blacks did not get the two requisites for freedom. That is, we did not get land and resources, nor did we get political and economic autonomy. Therefore, we did not get freedom. The removal of shackles is not freedom. It wasn't freedom for the British colonists, and it wasn't freedom for Jews. So why is it all of a sudden that the removal of shackles is called freedom for black people? So we have to understand that the removal of shackles does not equal freedom, particularly when those shackles haven't actually been removed. Okay, why do we think prisons are typically far away from the cities? To take them out of our consciousness, okay? But prior to 1865, not all black people were in shackles, but you had hundreds of thousands of black people in shackles. Okay, and here we are in the new millennium, 2018. Not all black people are in shackles, but there are still, what, hundreds of thousands of people in shackles, black people in shackles. Okay, so Juneteenth didn't actually bring us any freedom. That was just the end of the Civil War. Okay, so we have to understand that the question really was not whether black people would be enslaved. The question was how black people would be enslaved. Okay, and it should be obvious that we're still enslaved spiritually. We still serve the spiritual ideas of the invader, and we were also still enslaved mentally. We still haven't solved the problem of the miseducation of the Negro that was written back in the 30s by Carter G. Woodson. So we have to teach our children in solution that freedom for black people has the same meaning as the freedom for British colonists and freedom for Jews, which is to say that in order for us to be free, we have to secure some land and resources. We have to have political and economic autonomy as well. And of course, that means we have to be able to defend that political system and that economic system. Okay. And our children also need to know, of course, that it wasn't some benevolent white man that delivered us from slavery. Obviously, as we just mentioned, we've never actually been delivered from slavery. We still have a significant portion of the population in shackles. And our children need to also know about those freedom fighters such as Gabriel Prosser, Denmark Vesey, Nat Turner, etc. And that this was done by people of all walks of life. Okay, some well-to-do black men, such as Denmark Vesey, pitched in the effort. Some of those who were still slaves would poison the master's food. I mean, stuff like this. So there were people from all walks of life who pitched in to help secure one level of black progress toward freedom. Okay, because we're still not free yet, which was obvious in the I Have a Dream speech. He mentioned that sadly, Dr. King mentioned that sadly, after 100 years after slavery, we're still not free. So nothing different has really gone on between now and 1968 when he was murdered. Okay, so if we weren't free in 68, you can believe 50 years later here in 2018, we're still not free. So what is Juneteenth? Okay, is it a party, a barbecue, a parade, a freedom fest? Because as I've mentioned, we didn't get freedom. Okay, we got a step in the direction, okay, towards freedom. But the absence of shackles is not freedom. So we could use this time more constructively to put together a plan of freedom so that we could enact some plan, organize our activities and our activism such that it could lead to freedom. Okay. And one of the reasons we keep marching in circles is because we don't know what freedom is and we don't know where we're going. Okay. These are some Juneteenth images that I found. Celebrate freedom, as you see in the red, black, and green. No such thing ever occurred. Juneteenth, we see the breaking of shackles. The breaking of shackles doesn't make you free. And as I mentioned, we still have hundreds of thousands of black people, if not a million, still in shackles. So that is just not consistent with the reality that we live in. And in the bottom image, you see Independence Day. No such thing has occurred. Although I prefer to use the word sovereignty as opposed to independence, because it's actually the case that the oppressor is dependent on the oppressed. Okay, the oppressed are not dependent on the oppressor. So that's backwards, as is a lot of other things that are opposite in this society, and that's how they keep us deceived. But at any rate, our children need to know that Juneteenth did not bring us into freedom, although it did end a certain type of physical restraint. Okay, but we're still under spiritual and mental restraint that keeps us from becoming free, and linguistic restraints that keep us from becoming free. We can't seem to get out of the language box and start to describe things for ourselves. So one of those things that we have to describe is what freedom is. So I'll do another presentation on that topic that requires some background. But to take you to the end of the story, freedom is self-control, individually and collectively. So as a Black American group, if we don't have self-control, if we're not making our own rules and following our own rules and policing ourselves, then we're not free. So we have to take this opportunity on days like Juneteenth to discuss efforts to get towards self-control, to discuss efforts to become free from European and Jewish domination. Not just equality. Equality is not freedom, and we'll cover that another time. So in closing, we just need to be able to teach our children that we must control ourselves and our land and our economy. Okay. And just as divisiveness is taught, unity can be taught. Okay. We can teach them that there is no individual freedom without group freedom, because this also encourages unity. All right. And thoughts of the group self, which we leave out. This is one of the problems with actually achieving freedom, because you can't achieve it as an individual. We have to do this together as a group. No man is an island unto himself, as it was said when I was younger. Okay. We have to teach them to make rules wherever we are the majority. So it makes no sense for us to continue to get mistreated, abused, and murdered by police in jurisdictions where we are the majority. If that is the case, then our march for voting rights were totally in vain. Okay, so we have to at least be able to use the benefits that we've acquired to this point. All right, and so then the end goal, division, is to be able to overcome European and Jewish domination, because that is the problem. So teach them that the goal is self-control. Peace.